Hi, everyone. It's your host, Julia, back with another episode of the Ethical Consumer Podcast. And today I have with me Trevor Carlson, and he is not necessarily a food brand or founder himself, but he works with a lot of food brands in the sustainable realm. Thanks for coming on, Trevor.
What's up, Julia? How you doing?
Hey, hey. I am excellent. I am doing wonderful. How's your week been so far?
Pretty good. It's cold out now, and I'm not happy about that. But did you know I've skipped the last 3 winters in Iowa, and now
I'm jealous.
Yeah. So, yes, I am happy to be here, though. So I guess that's a positive. Yeah. How about you? How's your week going?
It's going pretty all right. It's important to note that Trevor and I are both in Iowa right now. We're actually both in the same town, so we are both experiencing the wonderful Iowa first winter where it kind of fakes you out and goes to 30 degrees and 28 degrees. And then it pops back up into the 70s, and then it shoots back down to 30, and you really just don't know what season it is or if you need a coat or not. Mm-hmm. It's great. We hate it.
Yes. Yeah.
But we love our home state. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm planning an escape this winter, hopefully, but we'll see what happens. I
We shall see.
I want to go to someplace warm. Yeah. So, I work with food companies, food and beverage companies. Try to stay focused on food and beverage sustainability focused companies with goals other than just selling more food. So, and that's pretty much it. That's my job.
Excellent. So what's your life story up till this point? Where did you grow up? Obviously in Iowa, as I mentioned.
Oh
man. No.
I don't know if everyone wants to hear all of it, but I'll give you the abbreviated version. So,
sure.
I grew up in Western Iowa in my friends tell me it's not even a town, it's a village of about 2,000 people. And, the closest Walmart or McDonald's we had was 30 miles away. So,
oh, goodness.
Moving to Des Moines right after school to go to college was a bit of a culture shock. And, I don't know if a lot of people imagine that Des Moines is very big. So, it's a bit of an adjustment. I bounced around with different, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, taking different majors, ended up at the University of Northern Iowa studying psychology, ended up dropping out with a semester left because I had, I had a business I had started, and I remember I was reading a book that I had checked out from the library for free. And it was on top of my $400 psych book, and I was sitting in my psych class that I paid, I don't know, a few thousand or $1,000+ for the semester. And I had this realization that I'm reading a free book, avoiding all the stuff that I paid for. So I figured that was a pretty good sign that I needed to be somewhere else. Worked on that business for a while. I think that was probably, I don't know if that was a food, I can't even remember. It was that was 10 years ago. So I had a food cart business at one point in time selling Korean, so bulgogi flavored tacos.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that was cool. Except that didn't work out.
So you did the food thing for a minute.
Yes.
You were a food founder.
Yes.
You were in the food and beverage space.
Yeah. And I really liked the food part. I didn't like being out until 4 a.m., serving college students after they'd been drinking for, an extended period of time. That was probably my least favorite. So after that, was involved in several different businesses and startups, helped work with basically a collaboration between a health system and tech company down in Cedar Rapids. So it was Mercy Medical and Geonetric, and we started a project there that the goal was to connect families taking care of Alzheimer's patients and cancer patients. So the family members, connecting them with local resources to help make their life a little easier. So I was brought in as, I don't know if the CEO is the right title, but I was the project lead, I was brought in to direct that. It was its own separate organization. And, went down the venture capital route and did that for a couple years, and, really burned myself out. I remember, I during that time, I remember people saying like, "Oh man, like, dude, you're awesome, killing it." And then I'd be like, "Thanks, guys." And then I'd go home.
I'm dead.
Yeah, go get home and like, curl up in a ball and just be like, "Oh my God, I am exhausted. I'm beat up," and it just wasn't. I left that, and I knew that I didn't really want to go down that path anymore. So I started learning how to do like online marketing, and started my podcast, the Formula Podcast, around the same time, because in my mind I was thinking I clearly have the wrong idea of what success means and what what fulfillment means, and I want to go talk to people who've either found success in business, in life. That ended up leading me down the path of doing the whole like travel work thing for a few years. So this all started, this business started a few years ago when I started traveling and working. I know we've talked about that, going to all the cool places and where we're going to meet up.
That we can't go to right now.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to having a beer on the river in Budapest as soon as all this is done.
Yes, please.
I've never been to Budapest, but I'm fairly certain every major European city has a river running through it. So I'm guessing that there's a nice viewpoint there.
There is a very large, beautiful river, and at some point there will definitely be the Budapest tour given by my lovely fiance, Matt Andrini, who knows Budapest like the back of his hand, and not just like the touristy sites, but like all of the underground sites that nobody knows about. It's the most fun way to experience Budapest, I think. Not that I'm biased.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun. So yeah, I mean, we talked about how travel kind of going to these different places kind of changes you and changes your perception. And I think for me, there's a few things that happened with, just I spent a lot of time around like nobody who spoke English as a first language, probably for, I don't know, 5 months straight. And it was a bit of a reverse culture shock coming back, and like I remember I came back and everyone was speaking English, and I'm like, it's overwhelming, because I hadn't been able to have a conversation in a while. And then if I ever heard anyone speak English, I was like, oh, I want to go talk to that person, So having all that, it was like sensory overload. But then going to the different places, seeing a lot of the waste, plastic in the ocean, trash, and then kind of realizing that, asking myself, did I play a role in this? Did we do this? Like,
sure.
And the answer is, yeah. And so that, and then spending time in Bosnia with the family that survived the siege of Sarajevo, and the war there, that, I don't know, that just kind of changed my perspective on things, where I think it was more about, I was probably more selfish maybe, and more concerned about like making money, income, maybe what other people thought I should be doing. And after that, I really decided that that's not the path I want to go down anymore. And so getting into, I had developed this skill set of marketing, online marketing, selling things online. And I really wanted to take that and use it for something positive. Long-term goal is podcast and write, and I'll get there at some point in time. But if I have to work, then I want to actually work with things that I feel aren't harming the world or aren't affecting it in a negative way. Well, COVID has made things a little bit difficult, so we've had to work with some folks. Nobody that, I would say is a net negative on the environment, anything like that. It's just more like other types of businesses that are a little out of the food and beverage realm, just to keep things going. So, I don't know. That's kind of my life story, and now I'm here.
Nicely done. That is an excellent 8-minute nutshell of a life story. I don't think I could concisely put my story as eloquently as you just did. So congratulations, you passed your first question.
I get asked this a lot, and somebody asked me the other day, like, what do you do for work? And I'm like, well, this is complicated because I host a podcast, I produce a few podcasts, I do this and this and this and this, and I'm like, I need like I'm just a dude that does stuff that's fun, that I think is fun, that I make a living off of. So
Sure.
I don't know.
You do stuff and you try to make the world a better place and you succeed at it. So I would say that's a very good definition of a success in many people's books.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think so. I enjoy most of what I do. I mean, there's definitely some stuff where I don't like it, but I would say overall it's pretty fun. I'm very lucky,
Sure.
I should say.
Good. So did you start Fresh Fuel Marketing when you were out of the country, or did you start that when you were still based in the U.S.?
So the Fresh Fuel part, that was when we rebranded to focus on food. So that was actually started when I was still in the U.S. So It's just the Fresh Fuel part is just well, technically it's like a DBA. So it's our name now.
Because it was originally Deus Ex Machina was the name that I knew you as when we first met. Yes. Excellent. And then what was the idea behind the name change? Was it to kind of rebrand to the ethical side of things, or just let people know you were doing food branding?
It was mostly to do the food branding, and then also just, yeah, I mean, trying to basically, if we wanted to get work in the food and beverage space and work with sustainability, or is that right? Sustainability focus, sustainable focus, whatever.
Words are hard.
Yes. I knew that we would have to like specialize in that area. So that was the decision I made, is I wanted to continue working with people like that. I really like all of our food and beverage clients, the people that own those companies and the people that we get to work with they're really awesome people, because they're usually not just doing it there's usually another reason behind their company versus just, selling more food, So
For sure.
And
And that's when it been, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just the quality of their products too, where they get their ingredients from. It's, it's just, I would say it's a lot better than if you go to like a big box store and buy stuff that's probably not very good for you, makes you sick.
There you go.
Yes.
So did you start out with, like, how did you get into the food and beverage space then? Did you do advertising and marketing for other types of companies? What pulled you toward the food and beverage industry?
That's a good question. So I worked with a company called Mission Meats at one point in time a few years ago, and my friend Peter started all that. And it's a meat company, like a beef jerky company, but they give a large percentage of their profits back to charities to support different mission focused organizations. And we had a lot of, it was fun because it's, everybody likes to eat food, maybe not meat, but everyone likes to eat, right? Everyone's got to eat. So it's something that I kind of feel like if some of the other things that projects I've worked on in the past, or, I used to run around with a lot of friends who did drop shipping and things like that. And I don't know, it always left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm just drop shipping plastic stuff that I would never buy, and I'm getting people to pay for it. And I just don't, maybe my values have changed. Maybe I've grown up. I don't know, but that's not for me anymore. And So with food, it's something that everybody needs. These products are higher quality. And so I guess it was just thinking through, especially after that experience in Bosnia, it was like, if I'm going to keep doing this, who are the types of people I want to work with? And the first route I actually went down was trying to work with NGOs, but they don't really have people do my role for the most part. So that didn't work. But yeah, then like sustainable food was ended up being the route that I went down. So
Sure.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned drop shipping. I had a very unfortunate experience today, actually. I ordered and for people who don't know, the drop shipping, you can literally just basically wholesale something from another company and then have it shipped under your name and get the cut from it. And I mean, it's a wonderful thing if you're trying to make money, I suppose. But here I am trying to practice what I preach and not going to Amazon to buy a humidifier, but trying to buy directly from a company. So I found this cute little portable humidifier that is actually chargeable, so I don't have to plug it in. I can take it with me into whatever room. And I'm so excited that I'm buying straight from this company. And it has 2-day shipping, and I'm so stoked. And then I get the tracking number, and it's coming from China. And I'm like, wait a sec, hang on. This was like a US-based company, or so I thought. And then the address on the website was like somewhere in Maine or Maryland. It was one of the M's. I don't remember. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, this is what my money is going to. I'm going to a US company. Excellent. And then I get my PayPal receipt, and it's like some dude's name at PayPal. And I'm like, that's kind of fishy. I don't know how I feel about this. And then I get the China tracking number. And then it takes 2.5 weeks to get here. So it arrived today. I have my humidifier, but it's not what I expected it to be. And again, like, you think you're supporting one thing, or at least not supporting something you don't want to support, and then you kind of see the effects later on. And
Yeah.
that was frustrating. I mean, that's just, a small humidifier. It's not necessarily a big, huge industry, but it's kind of the guise under which you operate. Are you out there to make money, or are you out there to improve the environment, or at least not harm it? And we've talked about before, I think you mentioned you were swimming somewhere, and you were essentially swimming in a sea, but also a sea of plastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you don't always know those things until you're directly exposed to them, or until you have like an emotional reaction and actually see where some of this stuff ends up.
Yeah, it's tough, because until you see it, it's really hard to imagine that happening. I mean, growing up, I never even thought about it. It was just kind of like, oh, well, recycle, and that's it, and everything else is good. But I don't know. There's just a lot of I have kind of a, I don't know. I feel like I'm very different than a lot of other business folks that I know, because a lot of them would, with the opportunity to make money off of something, whether it's drop shipping or whatever, they're not going to say no to that. They would say yes, because it's like, well, somebody's going to pay for it, so why not? But there's ramifications for all of this stuff. And it's not just that. It's like, if you stand for nothing except for making money, then what else is, like, I don't understand that logic, that stance on things. You're acting like it's a zero, not you, but in general, people are acting like it's a zero-sum game, where you have to, if you can do it, you should, even if it's legal, and even if it's wrong. Well, it's legal and I can do it, and people paid me, so why not?
Right.
And I don't like that. I mean, I've seen a lot of people do things like that, and typically I very quickly distance myself from them as fast as possible. Just because I don't know. It's just like it's a character thing to me. It's if you're not thinking about the wake that you're creating, whether it's through business or just your personal life, then it's I feel like that a lot of we could all do a better job at that. I'm definitely not perfect by any means. I'm very flawed, but I try to think about the impact that I have on others and the environment and whatnot. And that was, it was funny because Danny, the person I'm rooming with now, when he recommended you for this show, and then we talked, I was like, because the reason I don't know, you've made this show much better than I had imagined it would be in my mind.
Oh, thanks.
And
side note, guys, so Trevor was actually the mastermind behind this podcast. So this is a collaborative effort. And thank you so much, by the way, because it's been one of the best things that I think I've done in 2020 and probably in my life. I absolutely love doing it. So thank you, Danny, for making that connection.
he's over on the couch.
Thanks, buddy.
He's really happy that I'm staying with them right now. No, so I think that I think that what you've been able to do with highlighting even like the public health things and showing people examples of how you can do stuff at home has been really awesome. And I don't know if it's as hard as people try to imagine it is. I think it's just more of like putting in the effort to do it and getting like a new habit developed and stuff like that. But if we all think had a bit more education around it and exposure, then maybe we would all do a bit better.
Sure. I think that's been, I mean, in doing every episode, having every guest on here, like I've walked away with new information or connected the dots on something that I kind of knew about. It was in my peripheral, but I didn't understand the ramifications, or something didn't process because it's just what I grew up with. And you mentioned the public health thing in the Farming for Public Health episode. Like, mind was blown that I'm driving through these highways with all of these cornfields, and naive little me, or I mean, it's what I grew up with. I didn't process that corn was not staying in Iowa. Mm-hmm. That corn was going elsewhere to be made into different products. Mm-hmm. And like with the humidifier snafu, I'm thinking this thing was like $25. How much did it cost to ship this from China, go through customs, get processed into Chicago, and then come to me? Like, it's a $25 piece of plastic. Things like that, guys, I swear, I thought I was buying from a U.S. company. I purposefully did not buy it on Amazon. But you don't realize some things until they're put in front of you. And, I mean, that's one of the things that we're trying to uncover here. But like you've said, that's been a lasting impact that has affected how you do business, and you choose to make that a priority. You could just go and accept, every person that wanted to work with you. And of course, you got to make ends meet at some point, mm-hmm. somehow. But you get to be selective about who you work with. And I think all of us do. And to help, raise that standard a little bit and maybe inspire others to do so at the same time. And I mean, it really, every episode so far, too, I think I've mentioned this, it comes down to education and awareness. And sometimes we just don't get that until later in life, or something just shows up and smacks us in the face and says, hey, this is actually a problem.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if you think about the quality of the food that a lot of people get here in the U.S., it's usually not very good quality. I mean, yeah. Going to Western Iowa, where I'm from, there's cornfields everywhere. But the local produce is virtually, I mean, it's hardly anything. And mm-hmm. It makes no sense to me that they can't take it like an acre of land and just grow some local stuff, and then they sell right. it to the local towns or whatever. So it's not just about having better I'm thinking of like recycling when I'm saying sustainability. It's not just that, it's also thinking through what's the impact on your body when you consume this mm-hmm. stuff. That's, and when you eat more, when you eat local, when you eat stuff that's healthier without all the added, whatever ingredients, I mean, pick your poison, I guess. And
extra poison, indeed.
Yeah. Because one of the reasons I've gotten into at least the food stuff is like I have some food allergies, and yeah, I feel awful if I eat the wrong thing, and so I've probably cheated a bit more than I should have because of COVID, but for the most part, I try to stay pretty strict to eating, like, probably not as much local as I should, but it's because it's kind of difficult here unless you go to a farmer's market. It is. That's something that I'm not trying to preach to everyone, but if it was easier to buy local, I think that would encourage more folks to do so. Mm-hmm. Instead of having a farmer's market once a week, it's just like, this is the farmer's market that's open every day, and you just go there instead of Hy-Vee.
Right. I'm excited that our area too, here in Cedar Falls and Waterloo, Iowa, we are going to get a co-op eventually. They do have a site now, thankfully, and they're starting construction, I believe, next year. Okay. Construction, of course, is always, subject to time and people and finances. And in Iowa, we have the weather to contend with. But You brought up a really good point, because I think we have the College Hill Farmers Market. If you guys want more information on that, you can go back to the episode with Yellow Table Farm with Eric Jensen. We talked a lot about the farmers market sourcing. But we have the College Hill Farmers Market on Thursdays, but that's done now that we're in winter mode. We don't have good weather all year round to be able to do that. So we have College Hill. We have the Saturday morning in Overman Park, and then Waverly has one as well. Waterloo also has one, pardon me. So there's a couple farmers markets, but yeah, you have to go during that 4-hour time frame on a specific day. I hope eventually with that co-op, and I know other places have co-ops that work directly with local farmers, hopefully we'll be able to get to a point where we can go to a store during business hours and get the local produce we want. But it really is kind of hard. And when we've talked about our travels before, I have a very sensitive digestive system. And when I'm traveling, it's the best. Mm-hmm. I don't have any issues with the food. And here, I do not eat much meat. If I do, it's like a piece, because a friend of mine made something, and by a piece I mean like a single bite. It's not something I love supporting. I love supporting local farms, but that's just how I choose to eat. But I can eat anything: bread, wine, cheese, meat if I choose to, when I'm out of the country, mostly in Hungary, and I don't get sick. It's not upsetting, because I know that our host, Zoli, will usually go to the market, and they're getting this fresh from their farms. That's not something that we have here in Iowa, even though we are surrounded by farmland. It's not always the local small farms, and our chain is kind of broken as far as getting that food that's grown here to us, because most of the farms around here aren't meant to go to us, sadly, right, even though we get their pesticides.
Yes. Yeah,
not fair.
No, I have the same thing though. Like when I'm everywhere else I go, I pretty much eat anything that I want. Like I'll eat desserts, I will eat bread, I will eat, I don't know, and drink whatever. And I never have any issues at all. Like very rarely. I think that the big thing was I probably gave up meat completely because I was in the Balkans, and it's just like meat and bread, and I was like, I literally cannot eat. My stomach was like, no more, please, for the love of God, no more meat. So I just started eating. That's when I really got into eating like not fried, like just like vegetables. Like I would get like eggplant dishes and all this stuff, and you go out to eat, and you pay $2 and you get a mountain of cooked, delicious, fresh veggies, and it's just like there's more than you can even eat there, and you don't feel bad after you eat. You feel great, and it's good for you. I remember coming back here. I ate at a local restaurant like probably in the summer of 2019, and I ordered this vegetable plate, and it was like $14, and it had like 6 vegetables, and I'm like, what is this? Like I could have spent 50 cents and bought this at the store and just cooked it myself.
Yep. 100%.
So even things like that make it difficult for people to eat in it with like a different, just like a different, what's the word I'm thinking of? Not palate, but,
dietary request or dietary, not even restriction, but just your food options, I guess. It's not easy to eat vegetarian or vegan sometimes, just because of what you're surrounded with, what restaurants have to offer, and how and where people are getting their produce. It's also not extremely cost effective for a lot of restaurants to house and stock a lot of produce when it's going to go bad, and they can't get it except for their shipment twice a week.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing, is like if you have to have it shipped from ways away, getting it here, if it was local, you could probably do that. I'm sure you could probably have just like tons of veggies everywhere. Yeah. Now you're making me hungry. I'm looking over and there's sweet potatoes on the counter, and I'm like,
oh no.
Yeah.
I am thankful for the produce that lasts a little bit longer. It does ship a little bit easier, as unfortunately we do not get a whole lot of fresh produce here, like you said, unless we're going to the farmer's market. But if you think of even avocados, something like that, you just want a gosh darn good, reasonably squishy, not brown avocado in Iowa. That's like way too much to ask because they're coming from California or where have you, and takes 3 days to get here. Food challenges, but that's something to be considered too. I mean, we really do have a huge privilege here living in the U.S. that we do have access to a lot of food, a lot of seasonal food, but also a lot of food that is in season somewhere but not here. However, again, what impact does that have as far as shipping and food quality and longevity and supply and demand of all of these farms that are growing it for the entire U.S. instead of just that area where it may be season or native? Food is not a black and white thing. It's been interesting to host this podcast, and you'd think something was black and white and very simple, but man, it's not. Yeah, and I'm sure I have a lot to learn. I'm sure we both do, because it's the more I talk to you about this after, when we have our recap meetings or whatever, and you bring something up, I'm like, oh man, I think you said something about like, I don't know if it's the honey production or something. Yeah.
Something with like being vegan, how almost being vegan there's some things that are actually make it not sustainable. And so I was kind of curious, like, I want to look more into that and learn more about what about that is actually not so good. And I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff, and it seems like the world's moving in the right direction. I just wish it would move a little faster.
Yeah, and I think it is nice that we have. I mean, the difficulty is we have so many things that we can choose to care about and support. And for some, that's fair treatment of workers. If it's a human harvested good, or, if it's machine harvested, the people that are working on machines, what conditions are they working in? Are they taken care of fairly? You have the argument for plant-based diets and animals. And yeah, honey is a really interesting thing to get into that. And I touched on that a little bit with Carol Fassbinder-Orff from Creighton University. She's a wonderful lady, beekeeper, bee researcher. She had a really unique perspective on everything. But the way we have to keep up with supply and demand, the real gray area that I have found so far is that so many people's livelihoods are kind of at stake if you just all of a sudden stop supporting a certain industry. It has to have this slow transition, I guess. And like, yeah, all of us who are kind of aware of this and becoming even more aware every day, we wish it could just be done and over with. But it's kind of a delicate situation because you have livelihoods at stake, you have supply and demand at stake. And especially with, you mentioned, the bee episode specifically, the honey episode. Again, getting avocados in Iowa, we can't grow those here. That just doesn't work. In Brazil, I would walk out my apartment and like get an avocado from the tree that was growing in my yard, and it was so great. And it was the most delicious avocado you've ever had, Trevor. Oh my gosh. But honey, almond milk. Sorry, that's where we were going. Almond milk, which is a substitute that a lot of people choose to use, and I personally drink it as well because dairy and I do not get along well. But almond milk, having to have pollinators in California, here I am thinking that all of these bees and other pollinators that are helping produce these mass quantity almond orchards are all those bees are from California. They just stay local. That's where they go to work. No, they're from Iowa and they get shipped over there, and then they get sick from a hive virus, and then they come back to Iowa. It's not a simple thing. It's so hard. I think what you're doing with being able to work more with sustainable and ethically minded companies, whatever they choose to support, I think it's admirable regardless. Everyone has something that they can choose to care about, and you work with some vegan brands. You work with brands that are not vegan, that are still non-GMO. And I mean, just the whole gamut of things you can care about I think each one of them deserves the same amount of importance, and eventually maybe we'll get there. But it's, how long does that take? How long does it have to take? But I'm afraid we have to be a little patient, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, some places aren't really allowing people to be that patient. I mean, it was
Sure.
so different. It's very different, like being in certain places and just listening to. I mean, if anything, I have hope because a lot of our generation, people younger than us, seem to be more like I hear a lot of people saying like I'm a vegetarian because I want to be more environmentally conscious, and not because I don't love meat, but because I would like a future. I'd like a planet that my kids could grow up on. Like they're thinking. It seems like I don't know. Somebody could probably tell me that they're not doing the right things, but I feel like their heart's kind of in the right place, and they're putting in effort. So I think that's a positive sign, which
For sure.
yeah. Now if we could just get everyone on board, that would be awesome.
That'd be great.
Yes.
Well, you keep doing the formula, I'll keep doing ethical consumer, and eventually we're just going to inspire the world to be better people and make better decisions. So
Yeah.
that'll hopefully be good.
Yeah, and
That actually,
Oh.
sorry, go ahead.
No, and I mean, I'm not saying people who don't think ethically or sustainably are bad people by any means.
No.
But it's just, I think just providing the education and the accessibility is
Yes.
going to make a huge difference. So
Yeah.
when you have 10 million followers, then
Panic.
yes, then and everyone's listening to your advice on this, then you can let them know what they need to do.
There we go. There we go. I'll write that down for when we have 10 million followers, 10 million listeners. On that note, guys, go to iTunes and leave us a review, please. Go to our social media, like and follow. Shameless plug. And we're having a giveaway soon, BT Dubs. Ooh, I let that cat out of the bag a little early, but it's going to happen eventually. So be looking for that, guys. Let's see. You'd mentioned something I wanted to touch on too, and now I don't remember what it was, but I will remember it eventually. You mentioned that you run this business while you're traveling. What does that end up looking like? Are you working from coffee shops or are you working from hostels? All of the above?
Yeah, anywhere, really. Anywhere where I can sit with my laptop. So I go to co-working spaces. Is usually, I mean, I've worked in co-working spaces in, I don't know, almost every country I've been to. There's been some place where other people like me sit and work. And then coffee shops, hostels, hotels, Airbnbs, beaches, mountains, things like that.
Handling your business in a beach lawn chair.
Yes.
Jealous.
Tough. It's tough. It's a hard life. It was, I think the funniest thing that's happened is I was out exploring these ancient ruins in like rural Thailand, like probably 6-7 hours north of Bangkok and a few hours south of Chiang Mai. And I'm out like standing on this like 600-year-old like stone structure that used to be a Buddhist temple, and I think it was a Buddhist temple or Thai royal temple or something. No one anywhere other than my friend Pauline and I, and I have my, it's like 100 some degrees. I'm dying of like the heat's killing me, and my phone rings and it's a client, and I'm like, oh, hello. And I'm like standing on these ruins taking a work call, and I'm like, hey, yeah, no worries. And I like send him whatever he asked for, and and it's like, it's just crazy that you like if you work, you can really work from anywhere. It's really just a matter of discipline and getting your job done. I really don't know if I could have done it when I was a lot younger. I think I'd have been probably having a little too much fun and not as much working.
That's fair.
Yeah. So I'm happy with other than the last 9 months, it's been I don't count that. But
for sure.
Yeah, it's been good overall. I mean, I'm glad I went down that path, and I'm excited for doing it again someday.
Someday. Oh my gosh, knock on wood. So what would your advice be to entrepreneurs that are kind of in the same spot where, they're not Maybe they're banging their head against the wall when they get home from work, like, I'm doing good things. I'm doing good things. This does not feed my soul.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some entrepreneurial advice for those people that are in that spot?
I don't think it's entrepreneurial advice. It's probably just like people advice in general. And this isn't saying that I have it all figured out. So disclaimer. But I would say that there's a really, really good book I read. I mean, there's a lot of good books on this topic that are helpful. This one was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He was a German psychologist who ended up in a concentration camp, and he wrote his observations on basically the meaning of life from the concentration camp. And then he released the book after a couple years later. And it's still very. I would say it's probably even more relevant. It's just relevant to. I mean, it's kind of timeless a bit, because how he frames this question is basically in two ways. One is, so let's say you're in this position where you are coming home from work every day, and you wake up in the morning, you just dread it. Like there's a weight on your chest. You don't want to do it. You're there. You just can't wait to leave. You're counting down the time. You have this like feeling that you're made for more, or is like, is this it? And you have a choice. So the first frame that he would suggest you look at it from is, imagine that you're in your 80s and you're looking back at this moment. What do you think you would tell yourself, or what would you have wished you would have done in this moment? So I think about that a lot. And it definitely puts things in a different perspective, because I think that I probably have a issue with making a mountain out of a molehill. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this problem I have. And then I think about it like that and realize I'm probably not going to be that worried about it in a week. So I should just chill out and take care of it.
Easier said than done.
Yeah. Yes. This has come from years of practice of trying to mellow out. And then the second one is, imagine that you've lived your life completely, and now you're back in this moment, and and imagine that the first time you did the wrong thing, and this is your second chance to do the right one. What is the right thing for you to do? And then do that. Because I think when you ask yourself that question, so person who hates your job, when you ask yourself that question, something will come like to the front of your mind of what you should be doing, and you're going to dismiss it immediately. But I would encourage you to actually take a step back and think about that thing some more, because for some reason maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but for some reason, that's like, if for whatever reason, that's like the thing that you feel like you want to do or should be doing, but you're kind of talking yourself out of it. And I would imagine you're probably like, well, there's not enough money there. I'm too old. I don't have enough experience. I don't know how. Okay, so let's instead imagine a world that, like, what does that world look like if you can do it? What would have to happen? And then start working on that. And that's pretty much it. And then, you kind of just have to take a leap of faith after that.
I like the book recommendations that I get from everyone that's been on the podcast as well. I think everyone has a story of how they got where they are, whether it's caring about sustainability or choosing who they work with, or taking, your run-of-the-mill 9 to 5, or even a job that you're very passionate about that is still kind of not fueling where you want to get to or how you want to be working or living your life. I remembered I thought about this earlier, kind of solving the problem that you see and forming your life around it, which is kind of what you just mentioned. Like how would I make this work? What do I want to do, and how do I make this work? One of our future guests, it's an additional kelp brand, but it's been beautiful. All of these kelp companies have done things for different reasons, and we were just talking about how sometimes not agriculture but livestock, it's not the most environmentally friendly practice, yet we have to feed the world. Midwest especially, where all of this is coming from. I was talking to this food founder from this kelp company that will be on in the future, and she said, what can I do? When she was talking to someone in the industry, what can I do to use what I have, the knowledge and the tools that I have? And they said, you can make kelp farming be a little bit more mainstream because it's a regenerative farming effort. It's negative in its environmental impact just with what it is and how it's grown, and more on that later. You can check out some of our previous kelp guests too, but it's finding the problem, figuring out how to solve it. If you can't solve it with the means that you have right now, create the environment that you can solve it in. It's a very long-winded explanation, but I feel like most of our guests have kind of run into that difficulty. This is what I want to do, but I can't do it right now. How do I organize my life, and how do I help society in the way that I can make this come to fruition and make this a possibility? Whether it's your own life goals or whether it's your goals for the longevity of the planet, or whatever ecosystem you're dealing with, whether it's land or whether it's marine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good advice.
I like that. Oh, good stuff, man. Good stuff. So the hardest question, but I know you're a foodie for sure. You've had a food cart. What's she going to ask me? You've had a food cart. I've seen you make amazing food dishes on your Instagram stories. What's your favorite food?
There's just so many. I mean, I think that some of my favorite food, I don't know if there's a specific dish, but so for some reason I'm thinking of like bread dumplings in the Czech Republic with like the cranberry sauce on them.
Ooh.
Yeah, super good. Also, I love desserts and French pastries. Those are amazing. It's very tough because I just want to like start naming off everything I like. If it was my last meal, what would it be? I would probably eat, I'd definitely have pizza, but I would do like the cauliflower crust with like a pineapple.
Yes.
Yeah, so something with like pineapple, and yeah, I think that would be pretty awesome.
You've just sparked the pineapple on pizza debate.
Yeah.
I believe pineapple can go on pizza.
Whoever thinks that it doesn't is wrong. So there's not really a debate. It's just incorrect.
That's another beautiful thing about traveling, is getting to see what other people put on pizza. Because let me tell you guys, some of you that have only had the pizza in the U.S., and again, I realize our privilege that we've been lucky enough to be able to travel and experience pizza, of all things, in other countries. Pizza in the U.S. is like some simple, basic clown stuff. Like, I'm sorry, but the ingredients that they put on pizza, first of all, in Italy is completely different. You cannot say that that's Italian pizza. We do not get Italian pizza. Brazil, Hungary, everywhere. Having France, I remember I had an egg on my pizza.
Oh.
In France.
Yeah.
My family the family that I was staying with brought it out, and there's this like, I'm not an egg fan personally, but I will eat them if they are solid. But there was this runny egg on my pizza, and I wasn't sure how I was going to handle it.
Yeah. Have you ever had egg coffee?
No. For those listening, my face is something to be reckoned with right now. Egg coffee.
Are you in pain?
No.
Are you in pain?
I'm a little in pain.
It's like
What is egg coffee?
It's a Vietnamese thing.
Okay.
It's very
Open to it?
It's very good. You have to try it at least once.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had a few, and yeah, I'll look up how to make them. The next time we see each other in person, I will make some egg coffee.
You'll make me egg coffee. Make sure it's not before a yoga class because I can't promise what's going to happen in Down Dog.
Oh my God. That's
No.
nice.
Sorry, listeners. Love you all. They always get to see my awkward personality come out when I get to talk to my friends, too. I've had a couple friends, a couple of people I don't know on the show, but you can usually tell the ones where I'm a little extra comfortable. So listeners, viewers, you're welcome.
You are, yeah. Thanks. Oh man. No, it's yeah, we'll try some of that. I know we've been talking about trying out some. Oh man, you have to get Castle and Key on here. Their gin is so good and fresh, man, delicious. I should have brought you back a bottle. My bad.
We're gonna work on it. We're gonna get some distilleries on here eventually.
I think in the springtime you should I can talk with Drew and you can just go stay with him for like a week and just book out like interviews. Just do just do one day where you do a bunch of distilleries and you drink at all of them. And then progressively as you do the episodes, they're just going to keep getting better.
That's gonna be our 100th episode celebration. Is Julia visiting a distillery or a brewery? I've not yet imbibed on the show. I'm usually drinking tea. If anyone was wondering what's in my container, but maybe for the 100th episode, we will cut the strings and we will see what happens. But
yeah.
Anyway, that's for episode 100.
What episode are we on now? I don't even know.
I think we're going to be on 14.
Okay.
14 or 15. Yes.
Cool.
Yes. That'll be good. Well, Trevor, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're
This has
welcome.
been a fun conversation. It's nice to get your perspective working with brands and also just your perspective on traveling and your why. I think we always get to we get to revisit every guest's why or why they're doing it. And like you said before, there's always interesting conversations around, it's not just business. It's never just business. It's because someone sees something that they would like to have a positive effect on.
Mm-hmm.
And they run with it, and it turns into a business. Of course, there's companies out there, and we all need to make ends meet. We all got to make sure we can eat the food that we want to eat, because food is delicious. But rarely do you find someone that's in this realm of caring about where their ingredients are sourced, what their packaging has an effect on the environment, whether their packaging is recyclable, shipping, what have you. There's always more behind the brand, and it's nice to see that with you behind your Fresh Fuel Marketing company too. Anywho, so we can find you on the Formula Podcast, and we can find you, is it freshfuelmarketing.com?
Yep. That's it.
Excellent. Wonderful.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. It's been fun, and I'll see you at yoga class sometime.
Excellent. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys.